Hey Dan, I know that you said that I'd probably be getting a phone call soon because you wanted me to answer some questions about Innovators Meetup. And so I wanted to try some stuff with some audio and video that I had going. So I thought maybe I'd kill two birds with one stone. Of course, feel free to have anyone call me, send me an email. Happy to talk to anyone. But I thought I'd throw this out here real quick. So basically, the big idea with Innovators Meetup is that I remember one Sunday seeing a guy setting up curtains in our kids' room for a Sunday morning service. And of course, there's something cool about that when I see somebody that started a business, was wildly successful, building a team and a culture of staff, and over decades to make millions and millions. To see him doing very, in a sense, very basic grunt labor. It's the idea that no one's above, washing or cleaning toilets at Google. I don't know if that's actually true, but I heard somewhere something along the lines that that's in their contracts. This idea that none of us are so high in the food chain that we can't do basic deeds. I do like that, but at the same time, there's this piece that all of us have talents and gifts, and if we're simply going to the lowest or the easiest thing to do and not actually using our gifts, I think that's a problem too. And I thought about it because I do believe that the current church model misses sometimes to engage certain types of people. I do believe the innovators, which I see as creatives, early adopters, the entrepreneur types, really aren't getting engaged if we simply try to plug them in on a Sunday morning. Now, of course, there's going to be exceptions, but from my experience, there just hasn't been a high level of engagement. And so when I saw that, I was trying to think of a way that we can actually engage these people more than they're being engaged right now. And after much thought and checking around and calling different churches to see what people were doing, I really didn't find a solution. And that's when I came up with Innovator Meetup. And again, I don't think that this is the best solution. I don't think it's like it's not a great idea. It's really barely an idea at all to gather people. But for me, I just felt like I wanted to do something and see where it went. It actually, in my experience, had a better payoff than I would imagine. And the whole idea is try to get people surrounded by a table, surrounded around a table, to basically share ideas with one another, where we can talk about what does it look like as entrepreneurs, as innovators, to engage the city that we live in for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the kingdom. But at the same time, is how can we help one another? How can we, as like-minded people, engage in each other's lives? And so it's not just simply about serving the church, but how can we serve and love one another? And how can we help each other prosper in the city? And so very basic premise is to invite 10 people, require each of those people coming to the meetup to bring somebody with them. Really, the big idea is that I know that most people, well, actually that may not be true, but there are some people that aren't the type of people that love to go into situations where they don't know anybody. So this is a guaranteed way that if you are that type of person, that you can bring someone with you, you feel safer. The second piece is that it's going to expand the circle. If you simply invite people you know, then at some point you're going to run out of people because you only know so many people. And this is going to introduce you to new people. And likely you're going to be introduced to new innovators and entrepreneurs, which really what this whole meetup is all about. And so that's what I want to do. I found a space. I do believe that the atmosphere matters a lot. And so my checklist basically is try to find a place that has reclaimed lumber and Edison light bulbs, and you're probably in the right spot. I wanted to keep it around 20 just because it felt right. I have done an Innovators meetup with 23 people. It did feel a little crowded. I did one with 16, and it was good, but I feel 18, 19, 20, just for my own personal experience, is around the right number. I always do send out a PDF invite. It is invite only. You need to confirm that you are going to come. There is a little shame that if you don't show up, it hasn't happened that much, but if you don't show up, hopefully there's a little bit of shame that you would feel, knowing that you're taking somebody else's spot, that we count on you being there. And when everyone shows up, it's a little bit of, I allow them to just kind of mingle, and again, this kind of crowd mingles pretty well on their own. We get started right at the time that we say we're going to get started, go for about an hour. In my experience, it's always just trying to come up with a question that's pretty vague that allows them to rant in any way they may want to rant. And so a lot of times it's like, hey, what does it look like to build culture within your organization? How do you make sure that your culture is healthy? And I often lead with that question, and people can take that and really interpret it however they want. And from there, they go out, and there's actually a lot of great discussion that comes from that. I think it's important within the first hour that as a facilitator that you make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. There are going to be some people that want to steal the microphone for the entire night, and you need to make sure that you're willing to shut them down and say, hey, we need to hear from other people. We don't have that much time. And say, great point, and let's move on. And at the same time, there may be some people that you may need to say, hey, we haven't heard from you yet. What do you think about this? Or what are you thinking about? And I'm always surprised at the people that are quiet because they often have amazing things to say. About an hour in, we take a few minutes to basically do a bathroom break. Usually, if people want water or coffee, they get it then. But this is a cool opportunity because you often see them gathering with people that they heard within the last hour, and we see numbers being exchanged and ideas being flushed out. And we pull them back together, and again, then we just go right at it an hour. And usually whenever the time comes to end the night, which is whatever the agenda says, we make sure to end on time, that it feels like we should have went longer. And I want to be careful because I don't want to leave there saying, yeah, that was long enough. I want people to leave saying, man, I wish it was a little bit longer, because I really want them to engage with each other. And like, why did you want it to be longer? Who do you want to connect with? And obviously, we live in a connection economy. So if people want to connect, they have the ability to connect. And from my experience, that people do connect outside of these events. They've connected with me personally, but I know that they've connected with one another as well. If you want to kind of break the ice, if you feel that it's needed, the first session, we go around the table. Who are you? What do you do? Kind of very generic question. But that's a question that most people can answer. During the second half, I usually like to ask, all right, what book are you reading right now that's changing your life? Or what book would you recommend to somebody else? And again, that's usually an easy answer, and people get talking from there. So again, it's not rocket science. It's this idea of, hey, let's get people to gather. I do often make sure that there's stuff for people to take with them. So my next Innovator, I've used this book before, and I'll use it again, Seth Godin's Poke the Box, because it's hardcover, it's small, it's fairly affordable. And then I also will throw like a notebook or a pen. So I got field notes for the next Innovators Meetup. This idea that we need to take stuff in, we need to put stuff out. And just people like to leave with stuff. I think that if they have something in their hand, it's almost like a memento of the evening. They often could see this book and remind them of the night. And hopefully it sparks again a little bit of that innovation and think about how they can get engaged. From this, I've actually had people engage with the church because now I know what they do, what they're gifted at, what they're good at. And I said, hey, here's some things that I think you can help with, and here's some things that we need help with at the church. But then there's other times just personally people connect, and I know that people can connect with others that in a sense is like, how can I further my business? How can I further the passion that I may have outside the church? And I think that's a win too, because if you have multiple people in your church connecting with each other outside of just the Sunday morning, obviously we know that's going to be a win for the church as well. Ultimately, one of the big drums I beat is like, I want this group of people to impact the city that we live in. And at some point, they're going to ask, why do you care? Why do you care about the city that you live in? And I believe our answer is because everything goes back to the gospel, this idea that if we can bring more of heaven to earth, and how do we prosper our city, that people are going to see that. And it's one way that the church and the creatives and the entrepreneurs and the innovators within the church can impact the city and have a long-lasting impact. And I think that is another form of evangelism as well. So again, if you have any questions, have them email me or call me. You have my phone number, 306-321-5861. Email me at thisisrobclark meetup@gmail.com. Would love to talk more about this. And if you know if anyone's doing these, I'd love to hear if they have any ideas that's like, man, you need to do this. This worked really well, or don't do this, because I want to make my events better as well each time that I do them. All right. Talk to you later.